The Kitt Peak National Observatory Visitor Center is a nonprofit through its parent organization, AURA, the Association of Universities for Research in Astronomy. The National Observatory is located southwest of Tucson on land of the Tohono O'odham Nation.
Hi, my name is Martin Randall, and I'm a docent here at the Kitt Peak National Observatory near Tucson, Arizona. I expect most of you remember well the solar eclipse of August 2017. It was the last time we saw a total eclipse of the sun in many parts of the US. Many of you may have watched the eclipse on TV, where images like this were shown on NASA TV from different parts of the country as the eclipse progressed. Or, like many of us, you may have been outside watching the eclipse using special eclipse viewers like this one. Let me show you the eclipse viewer I was using on that day. The McMath-Pierce Solar Observatory at Kitt Peak National Observatory. Just to give you an idea of scale, that vertical tower is about 100 feet tall. At the top are 3 mirrors or heliostats that slowly track the sun as it moves across the sky and keep the sun's light reflected down the diagonal shaft of the telescope. That diagonal shaft is about 200 feet long above the ground and then extends for about another 300 feet below the ground. And at the bottom are 3 focusing mirrors that reflect the sunlight back up to a final set of mirrors at about ground level, which then reflect the light down into the observing room below. This is the inside of the observing room. The light from the final mirrors in the telescope shaft comes down through the ceiling and is projected onto tables. Instruments can be added to analyze the images, but today we were just looking at them visually. If you tuned into NASA TV that day, they often showed images of the eclipse as it progressed, with the moon slowly moving across the face of the sun. The images from Kitt Peak were coming from this table. There's a little TV camera attached to the clamp standing on that wooden block that was pointed down looking at the sun's image on the table. And the women in the picture are taking photos of the sun's image. This is what we were seeing. You can see clearly some beautiful clusters of sunspots on the surface of the sun. And the moon is starting to take a little bite out of the disk of the sun. Those sunspots, by the way, reach big enough to swallow the Earth. This is the inside of the telescope shaft that McMath-Pierce has seen from the visitors gallery that tours of the telescope can see. We're at ground level here, looking up at the heliostat mirrors at the top of the shaft. We were only using the 2 left mirrors as seen in the photo on this day. To give you an idea of scale again, the central mirror is about 2 meters or about 6 feet in diameter. You can see the images of the sun's disk on the 2 far mirrors here, with by now quite a large bite taken out of them. Here's a closer-up view of the mirrors. The images of the sun are not quite in focus as they hit these mirrors. The focus is set so the images are sharp when they hit the tables below. Heading back inside the control room again, we can see that quite a large chunk has been taken out of the sun's disk by now. We never got to full totality of the eclipse this far south. The maximum extent of the eclipse at Kitt Peak was around 60% or so. The line of sunspots that we saw earlier near the center of the sun's disk has now been obscured by the moon, but there's still a nice cluster of sunspots near the top of the image. Going around to the other side of the table, I am able to take a closer-up view of these sunspots. You can even see some of the surface activity of the sun. The irregular edge of the moon as it passes in front of the sun is actually the silhouette view of the mountains of the moon. We got special permission to go right inside the shaft of the telescope to get a unique view up to the heliostats at the top and the view looking down the shaft. You can see the motes of dust being lit up in the focused beam of sunlight as it's reflected back up the telescope by the focusing mirrors at the bottom. The moon is starting to move off the disk of the sun now, and we can see that line of sunspots near the center of the disk again. Here's a nice close-up of that line of sunspots. It was a really interesting day, and I felt really lucky to have been invited behind the scenes at the McMath-Pierce for this special occasion. Do come and visit us at Kitt Peak and tour the McMath-Pierce Solar Telescope for yourselves. You can see it here in the distance at left, as well as some of the many other telescopes we have here on the mountain. Check out our website for tour schedules. I hope you've enjoyed this little glimpse of the 2017 eclipse as seen from Kitt Peak. Thanks for watching.
The Kitt Peak Visitor Center brings the science of astronomy to the public through exhibits, daytime tours, and nighttime observing programs. This mission is funded solely by your patronage and generous donations, and we thank you for your continued support. See us online at visitkittpeak.org.